Okay, we're on live. It is the third episode, and I mean we've lasted for 3 weeks, so we're back with the third installment of Hits and Hoops, branded sports. I've had a long week, and now this is my favorite time of the week because I just get to chill, relax, and talk sports with my buddy Nish. How are you doing today? What is going on in your week? And are you excited to talk about all this stuff? I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, just my week has been pretty busy with school and stuff, and now I'm able to talk about the one thing I love, sports. So it's kind of a nice little, it sets into the weekend where you have all these sporting events that are going on, like soccer, basketball, college basketball. So it's pretty, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's games on tonight if you're watching Thursday. There was games on yesterday. So sports are like a little mini vacation, and they are like a big segue into the weekend. And I can't wait for the weekend and looking forward to watching all those sporting events. It's a beautiful time for sports because you got all the ones you mentioned, and the one that's about to ramp up and come back is baseball. And the Phillies made a huge acquisition this time last week. And I'll tell you what, there has been nonstop talk about it all week, Thursday through Thursday. It's been nonstop chatter about Bryce Harper. There's been backlash. There's been, oh, they overpaid. There's people that are picking the Phillies to, go to the World Series potentially soon. Maybe not this year, but next year. So this signing has shaken everything up. It has created somewhat of a perception of the Phillies that they overpaid for a star that they felt they could market and might fall short of that. However, I believe Philadelphia is now a destination for stars to be marketed the right way. I don't think it's just some sort of perception or like false perception or facade that they're putting out there. I think that Philadelphia is absolutely a place that you can brand yourself as a superstar. And I think Bryce Harper is starting what might be a little wave in Philadelphia sports with all the superstars they have. And I think that all this backlash about overpaying is baloney personally. And I absolutely don't think it's false hype. I think the Phillies are going to be a really good team. Nish, you've had a week to digest the trade, not the trade, the pickup. I'm sorry. And that was odd. I thought someone rung into the chat. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've had a week to digest this whole thing. You've had time to think it over. 13 years, $330 million. Is Bryce Harper worth it, or is this just hype and a facade that Philadelphia is trying to be something that it can't be? What do you think?
I think it's with all that money, 13 years, $330 million. I think it's worth it because the Phillies, they needed that. They needed that star because I don't know if you saw it last year, but they started off the year really hot. They were in playoff contention. They were going to win the division, and then all of a sudden they collapsed and they couldn't do anything. Their pitching was bad. Their bullpen was bad. Their batting was horrible. So they needed somebody who could, put some juice into that lineup. And I think Bryce Harper coming to the Phillies will help that. And one thing I don't understand is I don't know why people are hating on the move. Like, he's getting money. Yeah, I know he's getting $330 million. People are gonna think that's a lot. They called it stupid money, but he's doing what's best for him and his family. Like he said, I think in the press conference, he wanted a place where he can, raise his kids, and they can call themselves Philadelphians or wherever he chose. But he ended up choosing Philadelphia, which is, in my eyes, it might be biased. I think it's the best sports town in America right now. So,
yeah, that's high praise. I mean, I'm telling you, Philadelphia is just like you said. He wanted a place to call home, and Philadelphia feels like home. It doesn't feel like the oversaturated market that is, a New York or a Los Angeles. Philadelphia feels like, okay, this is where I'm at. You feel the love and like the emotion and the passion. You really do. And I live in Los Angeles now. My buddy Nish lives in Carlsbad, and if you're a first time watcher, you know that we're two Philadelphians and two Philadelphia fans at heart. We both grew up there, and I just recently moved out here, and it's a different vibe. And I'm not bashing LA or anything like that, but Philadelphia, it's I understand why a guy like that, or anyone really, not just like Bryce, but any guy would really embrace Philadelphia and be kind of a guy that wants to go there. And I've seen that for a long time, and I think Philly gets a bad rep, but it's a really passionate place, and they love their sports. And I think people do dumb things everywhere, and some of the things that Philly fans get a rep for, I don't think it's really a good way to picture Philadelphia fans or convey them at all to the public. So, you're going to keep seeing guys go there because the athletes talk well about Philadelphia. Joel Embiid, he loves Philly. Ben Simmons, he loves Philly. Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffrey, every player from other teams. And you saw that when the best players on the teams were tweeting Bryce Harper in Philadelphia. And it just it felt so fun. And it really is. That's the thing. We know that it's so fun to be a Philly fan because you just have this whole camaraderie about all the teams, and all the sports complexes are in the same little radius, and the whole parking lot turns into pretty much like a tailgate festival. It's like the perfect thing. So it's just the whole city is electric when the sports teams are winning. And now that with digital media and social media and stuff, it's just amplified by so much more. And I think athletes see you can build a brand in Philly because Philly sports Twitter is viral. Philly is just it's booming. I'm telling you, and you're going to keep seeing it. You're going to keep seeing athletes come here, and it might piss people off. And I love that it does. And you're just going to keep seeing it. So now that we move away from the unbiased segment of this show, speaking of superstars like Bryce, there's a guy named LeBron James. I don't know. Maybe you heard of him. It's possible. It's possible. And this man just played, he's played more games, but let's just put it this way. This guy came in the league at 18, called the chosen one. Everyone doubted him, at a point in his career. Couldn't get it done. All this guy wins 3 rings, one of the most impossible rings I've ever seen. And now he surpasses Michael Jordan on the all-time scoring list. And I'll tell you what, you got to tip your hat to LeBron James I'll tell you what, my coworker, honestly, I'm stealing this from my boy at work. He put it perfectly today. He said, there's no one, he might not be, you could consider Michael Jordan the greatest, but there's no one in the history of the game that lived up to and exceeded expectations more fittingly than LeBron James. And it's 100% true because no one put that kind of pressure on Michael Jordan right away. When he came in, he wasn't an overhyped prospect, that everyone thought, okay, this kid could be hyped up. This kid could be the truth. They put that on him immediately. And this guy comes into the league, and he comes up in the first game, scores in the 20s, has 7 rebounds, 6 assists. I don't remember exactly what it is, but Charles Barkley said this too. Said he came in the league triple-double, almost a triple-double on the first night of his NBA career at age 18. And literally from that point on, he didn't miss a beat. Most productive, points scored, past Michael Jordan. About the assists, about the rebounding for a guy that size. And after that first game, it's amazing to see that when you go back and watch that, you're like, wow, we should have seen this. We should have known this kid is special. 18-year-old coming in on a team that was complete garbage, and he's doing that at 18. 2 years later, 3 years later, has him in the playoffs at 21. I mean, he literally had the perfect career that you could have asked for him. maybe besides a couple blunders, but those blunders made him a better player, a person. You've seen him go from 18. I was 14 years old, 13 years old when he came in the league. I've seen that dude go from an 18-year-old to be a now, 34-year-old. This guy is, I'll tell you what, as far as a model athlete, he is one of the most perfect in our era. He probably has the most complete legacy that I've seen other than maybe Tom Brady. I mean, those are the two guys that I can't argue with anything that they've done. And just another milestone for LeBron James passing Michael Jordan, had it written on his shoes. I know you're a huge LeBron fan, and I know you want to, tribute to your guy. So I'm going to let you have the floor and do what you got to do. But I just want to tip my hat to him because he is incredible.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, when LeBron James came into the league in, I think it was 2003, and in 2004 I got my first NBA jersey was a Cleveland Cavalier LeBron James jersey, and from then on I became a huge fan of him, and till this day. And seeing him pass Michael Jordan is like, it's pretty crazy, but because people will have their debates about LeBron versus Michael and all that stuff, but I can't have a say on it because I never watched Michael Jordan play and him winning his 6 finals MVPs and trophies. Like, but what he did, what LeBron did, and surpassing him in points, that's crazy. And scoring more than 32,000 points, you got to have longevity in your career, and you need to know how to take care of your body. And that's pretty much what LeBron does every single year in off season. He takes care of his body, and now we all know that he's on the twilight. He's in the twilight zone of his career, but he's still trying to do stuff well for the game. He's trying to give it his all, no matter how bad his team might be, with the Lakers being right now 6 games behind, 6 games behind the 8th seed. He's just competing and willing his team, and that's all you can ask. And people try to hate on him. They try to discredit what he does. They bring up his finals record, which is it's not great. It's 3-6, but he's made it to the finals 9 times. He's made it to the finals 8 straight times until this year, where he won't make it. But that's an incredible accomplishment, and it's kind of like, it's breathtaking seeing somebody at this high of a level doing this every single night for the past 16 years. Like, I don't think we're ever going to see a person do this, come to the NBA at the age of 18 and just dominate from his first dribble. And it's crazy. I just hope people just, block out all the other noise, Michael versus LeBron, all that stuff, and his final records, and just appreciate the man of what type of player he is, because you never know, we might not see it again.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a rare thing, and I mean, just the fact that he ran the Eastern Conference for so long is it's insane. And it's like, I finally am like excited for Eastern Conference playoff basketball again, because LeBron's not there to just take it and wrap it up and take it to the finals. I mean, it's crazy. It's just, can't even, no one's going to match his longevity and body of work it's incredible. It really is. So, moving on from LeBron James, staying in the NBA, and sorry, we're going to be talking about the playoffs, and, I'll crack a little joke here. That doesn't include LeBron this year. So the final 4 of the playoffs seems to be the top, 4 teams that everyone thinks are probably the final standing teams are the Nuggets, the Golden State Warriors, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Toronto Raptors. Those are the 1 and 2 seeds, I believe, for each conference. And I don't know. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? I don't know if I can trust Honestly, the team out of all of them, well, the Nuggets are going to be, we'll see about them in the playoffs. That's going to be a really fun team to watch in the playoffs because they just exploded this year. And I watched them against the Lakers, and that was when LeBron broke the record last night. And the Nuggets are just a great team. They're just a really good team. Like, they are just, everyone's athletic. Everyone runs the floor. They play defense. They move the ball. They move without the ball. They can take you off the dribble with their guards. They can shoot the ball. Their center's a monster. They are a crazy team. And I'm really intrigued to see them in the playoffs. I want to see Milwaukee go up against like the Sixers or the Celtics in a series and see just how much they've grown, because they're the one seed and they've led from like start to finish. But I just want to see it in the playoffs. I mean, I just want to see them go into a series against a team like the Sixers with 4 options, or the Celtics who have a great coach and a bunch of deep roster there. So I want to see one of those teams kind of steal that from them. Because the final 4 of the playoffs doesn't necessarily have to be the 1 and 2 seed, obviously. And I think that there are vulnerable top seeds, and that combination there makes it a very high potential that I think that it could not be the 1 and 2 seeds. What do you think the final 4 is going to be? And do you think it's going to be the typical 1 and 2 seeds, or do you think that another team could come up and take the spot of one of those top seeds?
I think when it comes to the top 4, no, you have the Nuggets, like you said, then the Warriors, and then on the Eastern Conference, you have the Bucks and the Raptors. But I think the Western Conference Finals is going to be a rematch of last year's Rockets versus Warriors, because as good as the Nuggets are, I haven't seen them in playoff. I haven't seen them in the playoffs. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get. Are they going to be this team that's going to go on the run and maybe force Golden State to a 7-game series? I don't know. They could be like Portland from last year. They could get swept in the first round and they're done. Like, I just think Houston, they want that revenge because of CP3 going down last year in Game 5. They want that revenge really badly, and I think it's going to be Rockets versus Warriors. And then on the Eastern Conference side, I think it's going to be the Bucks versus the Sixers. And I know the Sixers, they haven't been playing well, especially last night. They couldn't score in the last like 4 minutes. They gave the game up and stuff, but they have a chance. They play the Pacers on Sunday, and that can determine who gets the number 3 seed. And I think if the Sixers do get the 3 seed, I think they're going to go to the conference finals, because I think they can beat the Raptors, because we don't know what the health of Kawhi Leonard is. He's going to miss a few games. We don't know if that's going to be in the postseason or not. So, of course, I'm going to stick with my Phillies, with my Philly teams through everything. So I think it's going to be Bucks versus Sixers in the conference finals. So
yeah, I like that. I like that prediction. Sixers got to show they can beat some of those teams, and like you mentioned, they played pretty poorly last night. Zach LaVine just went insane. He's awesome, and that's just one of those guys that can do that to you in any given night. And kind of unfortunate they lost that game, but like you said, they have games in hand coming up, and they can take that 3 seed and see what they can do with it. I think that would be a lot better than having to face the Celtics in the first round. That would be a nightmare, because just the matchup seems to favor the Celtics, but that's kind of part of the growing process. So we'll see what happens with those teams. And then Milwaukee and Toronto, I don't think sleeping on Toronto is not good. I think I picked them out of the East early in the season, and I might be sticking with that, honestly. If they can keep Kawhi healthy, I think that they have potential to go to the finals. And there's nothing wrong with Kawhi. I mean, I just think that that's the only thing that prevents them, honestly, from going, is if he goes down. They have a bunch of good players, and hopefully, I think injuries, the bottom line, is the only thing that keeps Toronto out of the finals. I really do. I'm picking the Toronto Raptors to go to the finals this year. I know you say got to stick by your Philly teams, but I'll always be, pulling for it, but I picked Toronto, and I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to bring just one more chance for the Raptors to shine since the Vince Carter days back into the present day, because these other teams were pretty disappointing, not being able to even get out of the East. So, I mean, I don't think Vince Carter didn't either, but he was at least more exciting to watch when he didn't get out of the East. So, yeah. So either way, Kawhi Leonard, championship pedigree, experience. He's going to the finals this year. And out of the West, I'm going Golden State, obviously. But yeah, I like we were talking about with the Nuggets. I think Houston is definitely something to watch for, because they have that experience in the playoffs. So I think we're on the same page with the excitement of the NBA playoffs. So let's roll into another sport that we are very excited about, the NFL. And the draft is approaching, but first there's free agency. However, there's a little something called the NFL Scouting Combine, and we have to kind of touch on that because that really, it makes a difference. It makes a difference for prospects and guys' stock can rise. It's the first time that team can really get a handle on these guys, watch them up close, interview them, do all that. And I think that really makes a difference in the long run as far as who's going to succeed with how it's like an interview process, almost like it's like an application that you're filling out and going and giving to the manager. So they have to have strong resumes, and that's part of the workouts and how they, what their attitude is and how they talk in the interviews, and what their attitudes like. You got every team's trying to build a certain culture, and you're going to find your guys when you get to talk to them and work out with them live. So I think it's really cool. A lot of people have negative view of it. Some people, oh, it doesn't matter, this and that, and it kind of doesn't. But it's a cool little event that gets to get the NFL scouts and the coaches together for a nice workouts, and get to meet the guys that are going to play for them. So it's cool. So I have some notes here. And we're going to talk a little bit about the risers and the fallers of this draft, who stood out, who didn't, who made a name for themselves. And I got a couple receivers and a couple edge guys that I paid attention to, because I personally had a rooting interest a little bit in watching the combine. I think the Eagles need – we're going to rope a little Eagles into this. I think the Eagles need a burner wide receiver, a guy that can get downfield and make plays. Opposite Alshon Jeffrey, and I think we're both in agreement to that. And I also think they need defensive line or pass rush help, because you don't know what's going to happen with Michael Bennett. He's a little older, and there was rumors about them kind of shopping him around. You could save money. I love Michael Bennett. I think he's great, but we need to get younger at that position regardless. So I watched receivers and I watched edge guys, and I found a couple guys that stood out, a couple guys that potentially maybe fell in their kind of workouts and how they tested and what scouts will look at. So obviously it's all about the 40-yard dash. That's what comes first, right? But there's a lot of other things that come after that scouts look at, and we're going to chat a little bit about them. So I got here, my first guy is he's a big riser, and he goes by the name of Miles Boykin. He's a wide receiver for Notre Dame, measured in at 6'3" and 6'8", 220 pounds. That's pretty much a 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver. He ran a 4.42, which ranked ninth amongst receivers, 43.5-inch vertical, which ranked first amongst receivers, 11-foot 8-inch broad jump, second amongst receivers, 6.77 three-cone drill, first amongst receivers, and a 4.07 short shuttle, which ranked third amongst receivers. He pretty much ranks at the top of every single key metric, and he's 6'4", 220. If I'm a team, you got to be kidding me. This dude, he just came in and knocked everyone's socks off pretty much, said, yo, I can lift. I didn't get any lifting. I can jump higher than these guys. I'm telling you, I've had a long week. He said, I can jump higher than these guys. I can run faster than these guys. I'm quicker than these guys. I'm 6'4", 220. So this dude came in and blew everyone away. I was super impressed, and he moves well. He's a physical guy. You're going to see him just make plays. And I think that I'm going to go watch more of his, like, I'm going to try to find good, like, film study on him to see what other experts think. You know, maybe some of the guys are YouTube guys. They're not experts, but people who watch film. And there are a couple channels that are experts that do it for a living, that watch film, break it down on YouTube. So I want to see what they think of this guy, and I'm gonna piece it together a little bit and maybe have him on my watch list for the draft. But Miles Boykin definitely jumped off the page as far as, you know, that big physical athlete. And then the second guy is a guy that me and Nish were just talking about, Paris Campbell. I'm gonna spit you the stats, and then I'm gonna let Nish tell you what he thinks about Paris Campbell. So this dude measured in at 6 foot, 205, 4.31 40-yard dash, which ranked first amongst receivers, 4.03 shuttle, first amongst receivers, 40-inch vert, fifth amongst receivers, and 11-foot, 3-inch broad jump, which ranked third amongst receivers. Another guy who comes in at 6 foot and has the fastest 40, has the fifth 40-inch vertical at 6 foot, so he's getting up. Nish, break it down. Paris Campbell, what kind of player can he be for a team?
Like you're saying, the Eagles, they need to go after a speed demon. Paris Campbell is one of those guys. I saw him multiple times watching Ohio State play, and he can take the top off of defense. I'm not sure about his hands. He might have to work on those a little bit during his pro day and when he's training when he gets drafted, and then he gets in training camp and stuff. But I think he's going to be a really good prospect, and having 4.31 speed, that's pretty crazy. Like, the Eagles really need a speed guy badly to put next to Alshon Jeffrey. Like, past few years we had Torrey Smith and Mike Wallace. Yeah, those guys are great. They're good players, but they kind of didn't do much in the offense. But Torrey Smith, he kind of opened down the field for, Zach Ertz, Trey Burton, Nelson Aguilar, and Alshon. But this past year with Mike Wallace, he got injured in the second game and he didn't play ever since that. So we kind of didn't know what we're gonna get from him. And Matt Collins, he wasn't available. He was out the whole year with, I think, a hernia surgery. And that was like, we only had a few select wide receivers, and Alshon, he missed the first 3 games of the season. So it's kind of like, we need a receiver who we can rely upon. That might be in free agency, that could be in the draft, but all I'm saying is we need a speed receiver to pair up with Alshon Jeffrey.
Absolutely correct. Couldn't have said it better myself at all. I totally agree. That top end speed is rare to find. We had it with Deshaun Jackson. We saw what it did. Even Torrey Smith, far less productive guy, open up the offense. And then when Mike Wallace comes in, he's supposed to fill that role. He gets hurt. We don't have Matt Collins available, like you said, another potential speed guy. Shelton Gibson isn't good enough to play. We need a guy that can be on the field, because you saw how our offense struggled. They suffered. We tried to make Nelson Aguilar that guy, and he's just not that. He can make big plays, but he's not that outside, consistent speed wide receiver. What I wanted last year was DJ Moore. I really did. I wanted him to slip, and he ended up not slipping. And unfortunately, Carolina took him, and he became a pretty good player for them, actually. He made some big plays this year, and we just need a guy like that. So hopefully Paris Campbell doesn't go, flying off the board, but he probably will with speed like that. He's got to be one of the top receivers on teams' lists. So, we'll see how he does, like you said, at his pro day. But those two guys, Miles Boykin and Paris Campbell are two guys that I really thought did really well at the combine, and they definitely two needs for the Eagles for sure. Next guy I thought was really good was edge Ben Banigou from TCU. Wrote here he had the top overall test among edge players, ranking first in vert and broad jump, and recording the 6th best 40-yard dash at 4.62. that's fast for an edge guy. And I liked how smooth he looked. And I thought, that's a guy that I didn't really like. I wanted to look for guys that I haven't really heard their names much in the pre scouting combine, all this. I don't want to look for the guys that everyone talks about. I want to look at guys that I never heard before. And that was one of the guys that I thought was good. I didn't write his exact numbers down and stuff. That's me reading all that is like, oh, who gives a crap? Just get to the point here. And that's what I'm doing with Ben Banigou, is just getting right to the point. The guy is athletic. He's a freak. And he needs to be picked pretty high, because he could be a force to be reckoned with if he can put it all together and get the right coaching. So I liked him a lot. And then my other edge guy was, well, no, that was my only edge guy. Okay. But then also these guys kind of were obvious players that were going to go high, but I got Montez Sweat from Mississippi State, Devin Bush from Michigan. They both stood out. They both pretty much, these guys were everyone knew they were going to go in the first round, but now it's like a guarantee. Who do you like out of those guys, Montez Sweat or Devin Bush? And who would you like to see potentially fall, maybe somehow get in the Eagles range for them to get?
I would have to say Devin Bush, because he's a really good linebacker. I saw him play on TV at Michigan, and he's a game changer. We need a linebacker because we don't know the situation of Jordan Hicks, if he's going to stay or not. And we need somebody to pair up with Nigel Bradham, and maybe be a rotational piece for both Bradham and Kamu Hill. So he would be a good depth guy. He might be able to take the starting job from Kamu Hill if he does get drafted to the Eagles. So I think linebacker is more like of a need than defensive end, because we got Brandon Graham coming back, and we don't know, Chris Long might come back, and Michael Bennett might stay. So we're kind of solidified at the defensive line position, but I don't think we're so solidified at linebacker. So maybe taking Devin Bush would be the right answer, but I don't know. We don't know how he's going to do. He might get somebody we don't even expect. He might go for a position that we don't expect. So, yeah.
I like that because I like Devin Bush a lot too, and I know that we definitely need that kind of linebacker that flies around, gets in there, gets his nose to the football, and makes plays. And that's what I see when I see Devin Bush as well. He's fast, he's athletic, flies to the football, has good instincts. And Jordan Hicks' future is unknown here. His health is always unknown. So I think it's time to move on and get someone in there that can stay healthy. We signed Nigel Bradham to a big contract, and we can't just waste his contract by just keeping him out there as the only guy out there. I think he needs some help in the linebacking core to cover his butt and make sure that he's, not out there having to cover two spots at once and overthinking. And that's when Nigel struggles. I mean, any linebacker struggles when they're out there and they have to overthink because they're not trusting the guys next to them. So I think it's time you go get him some, top tier talent at linebacker. And I would absolutely love Devin Bush if he could fall to the Eagles at 25. I just don't know if it's going to be possible. But there's a couple linebackers that may be above him, so it's possible. We'll see what happens there. And then my guys who are kind of, falling down the depth chart, down the draft. I'm telling you, long week.
I feel you, dude.
I'm gonna be saying some dumb stuff. I just said falling down the depth chart as if a team already picked them. What we're talking about is falling down the draft board, because the draft's coming up in a couple months, and these guys are going for that. They do want to be on a depth chart, but before that, they have to get drafted. And I think that DK Metcalf is going to be drafted high. However, his 40 time was great. He's a super freak athlete. Everyone's seen the pictures of how he sculpted himself, and he looks like insane. But his agility drills, scouts are going to look at that. And you need to be, if you're going to pick a receiver in the top 5, he's not a guy that, just going to be like a ripped guy that can go straight. You know what I mean? You need great routes, you need quickness, you need breaking in and out of your cuts smoothly. You need agility. And his agility, he performed really low in agility drills. And that big body with all the muscles is like, you might just not, you might sacrifice a little bit of quickness and like flexibility and whatnot. So having all that, physical ability isn't going to get him anywhere if he can't move like a wide receiver. Like they're like ballerinas almost. Like they're very graceful, and like the routes and cuts that they make are so precise and quick. And you have to be able to do that to get open in the NFL, not just rely on your straight speed or jumping up over people all the time. So I think he's a guy that you're going to have to look out for as potential, hype because of, what he looks like and how fast he is. But we'll see if he actually ends up being the real deal. And then another guy that I felt did not really perform that well. Here's in my notes here. That guy, Ja'Kai Polite, Florida defensive end, edge rush guy. He didn't perform well in any of the combine speeds, drills, everything that has to do with that, agility, everything. I mean, and look, it's just a workout, but he wasn't shocking the world with anything special. There's already been concerns about his size. He's 6'2", 258. He's a guy that potentially could get to the passer, but do you take him in the first round? Do you take a guy, a one-dimensional guy like that, who can really only be on the field as a third down specialist? There's concern about that. And then there's also attitude concerns. And, whether that's true or not, the rumors out of the combine of attitude, demeanor concerns with Polite. It's funny because his last name is Polite, and there's like issues that
you think he would be polite.
Yeah, you so are those that two guys, DK Metcalf and Ja'Kai Polite, are those two guys that you'd even had in your head for the Eagles to get? Or me personally, Metcalf I always thought was going to go too high, and I think Alshon's one of those big receivers. I'd rather get a burner, like a pure burner, and then the other guy, Ja'Kai Polite, I kind of heard mixed reviews on him and wasn't really in on him. So what do you think about those guys?
When it comes to DK Metcalf, I think before his 40 time, I was like, nah, maybe we already have like a big receiver in Alshon. Then I saw his 40 time. I think he ran a 4.33, and then I was like, whoa, maybe the Eagles should look out after him. Then I saw the other test results that he did at the combine. I'm like kind of varying on if they should take him. And I think, like you said, he's going to be taken. He's going to be gone by the time the Eagles pick, which is the 25th pick in the draft. So it's kind of like he'll be off the board by then. And then when it comes to Ja'Kai Polite, like I said before, I don't think we need another edge rusher because we got Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett, who's coming off injury. Like, I think if we stockpile too many picks at the defensive end position, it's going to turn into a liability because some players are going to get unhappy about playing time, and it's going to cause an unneeded ruckus around the locker room and headache for the coaches, and maybe even a headache for Howie Roseman and Joe Douglas higher up in the franchise. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I think that you just have to be aware of what you're getting into, and that's what the combine's for. It's for teams to get to know these guys, and like we said, so those were just some notes I had, and when I was watching it, I knew I wasn't going to remember exactly. I just kind of jotted things down while I was watching some of the workouts. I work at a sports agency, so we always have a TV running, and we just get to. I mean, it's just me and a couple guys in the room, and we just get to pick whatever we want to watch. So it's cool. It's how I keep up on things. Like it's kind of what it is. We have a lunchroom too, so I get to watch some stuff there. And I just was kind of jotting things down when I had a chance and watching certain guys. So that was really fun to do. But moving on to free agency approaching in the NFL, it's a 365 thing. You know, you're always watching. Every single day you're getting up and you're looking for something to latch onto. And there's news and there's events and there's rumors and there's this and there's that. There's transactions, there's player movement. There's the biggest time of year coming up. It's free agency. What proven players are going to be out there available? Who's going to make it through? Who's going to help their next team? Who's going to be kind of a bust of a signing? So much goes on. So much goes on, and we've got it all covered for you here. We got a ton of roster moves, and we're gonna list them off here. So we're gonna just talk a little bit about them each one by one. So we're gonna do a little segment, a little rapid fire. I'm gonna say the move, and I'm gonna ask a little bit about it. I'm gonna maybe give a little bit of my opinion about it, and we're just gonna rip through them because there's a ton. So the Ravens cut Alex Collins and Eric Weddle. What do you think about, potential of the Eagles maybe looking into either one of those two guys?
I don't think we need either of them because we got Rodney McLeod coming back, and we also got Malcolm Jenkins. So I don't think we need Eric Weddle. We kind of need a third safety to back up either Malcolm and Rodney whenever they need some rest. So I think that's more of a concern than getting like a top guy. Then if we do get him, then we have to pay him top dollar. And I don't know like what's the deal with the salary cap situation. But I don't think both of them are needs for the Eagles right now.
Okay, cool. Yep, I agree. Exactly what you said. Eric Weddle's going to be too expensive to be a third safety, and I don't really think Alex Collins is the answer at running back. Maybe they give him a shot as like a bigger back to like pound the ball. He's not bad, but I just feel like they're going to go for more versatile running backs that can do a little more potentially. And I think there's guys that'll be on their list a little higher than him. Edge rushers Dee Ford, Jadeveon Clowney, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Frank Clark were all given the franchise tags. Which one of those guys do you think gets a huge contract, and which one of those guys do you think plays on the franchise tags out of all of them? I think Ford will play on the franchise tag. Clowney will play on the franchise tag. Lawrence will get a big deal. Frank Clark will play on the franchise tag. If there's another guy that might get a big deal, it's Clowney. Those two guys, Clowney and Lawrence, Frank Clark and Dee Ford are going to play on the franchise tag, prove themselves for another year, and see if they can get a big extension come free agency next year. If not, then they'll be free agents. What about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think Dee Ford and Frank Clark, they're going to get the franchise tag because they need another year to prove themselves and see if they're worthy of getting like a big contract. And then when it comes to DeMarcus Lawrence, I think he deserved a big contract extension because he's been playing well for the past few years, and he deserves that big money. But with reports coming out of the Cowboys camp that they want to give Dak Prescott a buttload of money, then I don't know how they're gonna, pay everybody there and also pay DeMarcus Lawrence. So I think he's gonna play under the franchise tag, and then I think Jadeveon Clowney he's gonna get the contract extension because he's been playing well ever since he came into the league, which was in 2014, and he's paired up with J.J. Watt. So you got two guys on the outside who are dominant pass rushers. So yeah, I think Jadeveon is going to get the deal out of all three of those guys.
Yeah, I think Clowney's a good pick for that too. I think he's definitely a special player, and like you said, you don't want to lose a guy like that because then you lose your dominance on either side. Offensive tackle Donovan Smith extended by the Bucs. I always thought maybe the Eagles needed a tackle. Never really thought they were going to go look into him. Not really that significant. Texans cut former first-round pick Kevin Johnson, the cornerback. It's interesting to me because I always thought he could play a little bit, but another one of those kind of insignificant moves. I'm not sure if the Eagles are going to be interested in a cornerback anyway, but he'll go on and maybe get another chance with the team, elsewhere, and we'll see what happens with him. But Cardinals cut Josh Bynes. Do you think Josh Bynes could be a potential Eagles candidate for maybe like a depth linebacker, or like one of those guys that could fill in if someone gets hurt and play a little special teams?
Yeah, I think so. I think he would be a good depth player or special teams player. I don't think he's gonna start because I don't like know that much about him and if he's like good at all. But linebacker is somebody the Eagles need depth at because I don't know if you can trust Nate Gary at that position.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like you need depth. So I think going after Josh Ryans could be a nice pickup for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know too much about the guy. I know he's been in the league for a while. I think he's more of a mid-level guy where you don't sign him to be a starter, kind of like what we did with Corey Nelson last year. God, that guy he's super forgettable. And we brought him in to be maybe challenge for a starting spot, but it ended up being someone that doesn't even make the team. So um, I'd hope if you go after some quality veteran depth, you get a guy like Bynes who is probably more fit to make the team and play if need be. But again, like I said, I think he's kind of a depth guy more so than a guy that you bank on being a starter. Um, Bears signed a kicker named Chris Blewett, and I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's like they got a kicker who did a double doink against the playoffs against the Eagles. It's kind of like
Parkey literally blew it, and then they
yeah,
cut Parkey and signed Chris Blewett.
yeah. If you don't know how good Chris Bluth is gonna be, he might, no pun intended, but he might blow it in a big game. So it's kind of
Exactly. You never know. It just the headlines write themselves. Chris Blewett is the new kicker after Cody Blewett. So, um, yeah, they went from Cody Blewett to Chris Blewett, which is awesome to me. Foles, I thought that honestly, I thought it was a joke when I first saw it. I was like, no way I signed a guy named Blewett. Like that's insane. Foles to Jacksonville looks like a done deal. I kind of saw it coming. I don't think anything can break, but it looks like that's the market. Kind of dried up pretty badly, and Foles to Jacksonville. It's as dry as a raisin that Nick Foles market. And he's going to go wherever they throw him money and give him a starting job. So, any predictions on Nick Foles' stat line for at the end of the year for Jacksonville?
I'm gonna say I think Nick Foles for what he did for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I said this the past 2 weeks, but I don't think he's gonna do great things with the Jacksonville Jaguars because they have two other teams in the division that they have to compete for the title, which is the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. And you've see what happened last year with Andrew Luck getting back on course, and then Deshaun Watson also coming back from tearing his ACL. So I think the Jaguars, I don't think they're going to be any good. They might be the third team in the division. They might be the fourth team, but I don't think Nick Foles is going to take them to the playoffs or make them Super Bowl contenders because he's, like I said before, he's the streakiest quarterback. He'll play good for a couple of games in a row, then he'll play bad, so on and so forth. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I don't think Jacksonville's going to give him much in way of the weapons Philly did and the offensive line that Philly did, the coaching Philly did, or the passionate, fans and the love and the swagger that he got from Philly. I just don't see it. I just think he's got to get his check and just try to start all 16 games. He's never started a full season in his entire career. So we're going to see, what he's made of. It's his third chance to be a team starter and in his career, and we'll see if he can bring them to the playoffs in a pretty tough division. It's just shaped up to be a pretty crazy division with Andrew Luck and Frank Reich looking like they're fitting like a glove together. Deshaun Watson and the Texans with Clowney and Watt, who we were just talking about, they're a good team. And then you got the Titans, who are always a pretty tough team. They went right down to the wire with the Colts for a playoff spot there. So I think he's got three teams that are pretty darn good in this division. That it's going to be a pretty tough sledding for the Jags to get back on top. But they got a good defense, and we'll see what they do. Jason Witten returns to Dallas. That's ridiculous. Absolutely insane. I mean, why not get younger at the position to add a guy that's going to matter? Could be for mentorship of the young guys. Maybe Jason Witten's got hands. Maybe he can get open. Maybe the year off helped him a little bit. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. He's a good security blanket for Dak. Could be a red zone guy, but ultimately not the same player he was. Couldn't run 3 years ago. Cinder blocks for feet. So we'll see how much that actually matters. And the big news tomorrow will break. Of course, big news always breaks the day after we do our show. I swear it happens every time. But Antonio Brown is expected to be traded Friday. I'm excited to see where he lands. I heard that a couple teams are out on him. I think it's going to be Oakland personally. And that's just what I think. What do you think? Where do you think Antonio Brown lands as far as, the Steelers, what they get for him, all that?
I think Antonio Brown is going to land with the Raiders because, they have the capital to do it. They have 3 first-round picks. They have, that's pretty much what they have. They have those picks. They can give 2 to the Steelers and get it Antonio Brown. So it's kind of like that's his perfect choice. But I think after doing those interviews over the weekend with LeBron James's The Shop Show and then with Jeff Darlington of ESPN, I think he kind of brought his trade value down because of what he said, how he called out Big Ben Roethlisberger and how he was saying that Big Ben threw Antonio Brown and all the other players under the bus and calling them, 52 kids. I think that's kind of like what Big Ben said. That's pretty disrespectful. Calling men who have children and married, calling them kids. But that's a different story for another day. But
yeah,
I think Antonio Brown's going to go to the Raiders. Yeah, they have the capital to do it. So, John Gruden likes him. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I think Antonio's a quirky personality, and maybe it'll take John Gruden to kind of steer him in the right direction, get him on board. And I don't know if they'll give up 2 first-rounders, but they certainly could. They're equipped with that, and they could at least give up 1 to get Antonio Brown. So it's kind of like they drafted Antonio Brown in the first round, and that'll kind of fire that organization up. Get a superstar receiver in there.
Before they move to Las Vegas.
Yeah, right before. I mean, they're going to stay in Oakland for this year, I heard. So
I think in next year or. Depends on the stadium gets built in time.
Yeah, so they'll move to Las Vegas, and Antonio will be another star attraction there. He'll be making plays for him and making big time plays every Sunday and all season long. So he's a big time playmaker, and that's just what he does. So moving on from Antonio Brown. The free agent safety market is very robust this year. You got Earl Thomas, you got Tyrann Mathieu, you got Landon Collins, and you got aforementioned Eric Weddle. So, we know that much. We know the Eagles need a third safety. I don't think any of those guys qualify as third safeties. Doubt they spend money on them. But what do they spend money on? Well, the Eagles made a couple moves, and we'll roll into the Eagles breakdown for the week, what everyone waits for. It is the Philadelphia Eagles status update. Me and Nish are here to talk birds, and this is the time to do it. So they extend Brandon Graham and Isaac Seumalo, and they restructure Lane Johnson's contract.
Mm-hmm.
They created cap space in doing all these things. And what are they loading up to do? Are they creating cap space to make a big move or a handful of smaller moves? Real quick breakdown. We are running a little long here, and we want to get through the Eagles. Obviously this is where we give our opinions on the birds, but at the end of the day, we do want to we want to make it so everybody can kind of digest what we're saying, and we don't kind of repeat ourselves from every show because it's kind of a slow time in the off season. So I have a little bit of a new scenario that I'd like to unveil. I'm sure Nish has some thoughts himself on what to do. I'm going to take offense. Nish, you're going to take defense, and I'm going to break down what I want to do on offense coming up in the free agency. Now, I'm seeing some trade rumors. I'm seeing Duke Johnson, Jordan Howard are available in talks. I mean, I don't know if they're available, but everyone's got their price. Seems like those guys are kind of halfway out the door because of the situations on their team. With their status on the depth chart, teams will be willing to part with those guys. if I can go trade a fourth-round pick for Jordan Howard or for Duke Johnson, or 2 fourth-round picks, or a third next year and a fourth this year, whatever the case is, I'll do that over drafting a rookie high. It's a proven guy. It's a little bit lower risk. And you can keep your top 3 picks in the draft, the first and the 2 seconds. They're going to come in handy. I still use some of the money that I cleared up to then go and sign a mid-level running back like a Tevin Coleman, maybe a little higher than mid-level. He's a guy that can take a lot of work, and him and Jordan Howard in the backfield, that immediately gives you 2 notable guys who have proven that they can produce 1,000 yards in the NFL from scrimmage, and that just would give you a big boost. They're not old veterans. They're not old at all. Tevin Coleman's 26, Jordan Howard's 24. They're not even combined the age of Tom Brady. So you look at – oh, yes, they are. God, that was awful. Okay. Moving on from that. Embarrassing math slip-up. Been running numbers all week, and there's my last slip-up of the night. A really simple math equation. Anyway, Tevin Coleman and Jordan Howard are both extraordinary players, young players in this league, and I think targeting those guys will be so crucial for the Eagles' success. I doubt they do it. It seems not likely. But if I'm the Eagles, I go after both of them. I need 2. I need 2 guys. No more Wendell Smallwood and Corey Clement being my main backups. No. I need 2 proven veterans. And that's I at least need 1, and then I need a better player than Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood. So give me the 2 guys that are proven. I'll take that all day. Now, wide receiver, I'd like to get a burner, maybe investigate some of those guys in free agency. However, I kind of like drafting one. So I'm not going to talk about the draft at all right now. I'm just going to leave it at, I think coming away from free agency with 2 affordable, low risk, high reward type running backs would be incredible. They don't have to worry about it during the draft. They have their guys. They have some young guys like Corey Clement and Wendell Small. Well, I mean, Howard and Coleman are really young too. They have some younger, less good talent in back of those guys, and they can keep developing them while having 2 young guys that they can develop while making a big impact, and that's Coleman and Howard. So, or Duke Johnson, either one. But I like Jordan Howard a little more than Duke Johnson because I think he's a little bit better of a pure running back. Duke's a really good receiving back. I'd like either one of them. 2 proven running backs, give me that. Now go for defense. Say we don't do the running backs thing and you just get to do defense. What do you want to see the Eagles kind of shape up? Don't worry about the money. Obviously, don't go for any crazy deals, but you know what I mean. You have 4.
So I think he got released yesterday. It would be Darian Stewart from the Denver Broncos. I think it would be a good addition to be like the 3rd safety to either, let's say Malcolm gets injured or Rodney gets injured again. He would be a nice, good replacement in there. I think like for defense, maybe another piece would probably, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cut him, Gerald McCoy, if he's available, I think the Eagles should go after him. But it depends on how much money he wants. If he wants like a big contract, then I don't see the point in getting him. So right now, my main focus would be on getting Darian Stewart, picking him up and putting him on the team. Maybe being a special team piece or backup safety. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think 3rd safety, maybe linebacker. We touched on it earlier, a little depth at linebacker. A guy like Quan Alexander's out there, but more so like a Josh Bynes, a guy that's not too high key. And I think the Bucs did say that they're keeping Gerald McCoy, but I definitely would have when he was floated out there. I definitely would have said, give me that guy any day of the week. He's got an elite talent, and putting him next to Fletcher Cox would have been crazy. We also didn't bring back Timmy Jernigan. That's something that we failed to mention earlier. But another move they made was that they decided not to bring back Timmy Jernigan on his option. Love Timmy Jernigan, but he might be back on a cheaper deal. There's potential of that. However, I think D tackle is a big need for the Eagles, and obviously, suggestion of Jared McCoy, maybe not him, but someone else would be a big pickup. So I like where your head's at. I agree. Let's have a good off season. Let's do the impossible. Put together another Super Bowl team. That's what the goal is, and it's going to start next week, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's kind of the show right there. That's the big segments. We're going to do a little bonus segments for you. We got a little bit of what to watch this weekend. A get your sports on kind of weekend. We want you guys to enjoy sports. Like we said in the beginning of the episode, it's like it gives more to your weekend. When you watch during the week, it hypes you up for the weekend. So it's like being, able to just relax, watch sports. So we have some suggestions for you guys to go and watch and just do your thing this weekend. Have sports in your life, enjoy it, and have fun. For me, I'm suggesting we have 3 really good college basketball games on this weekend, right before the conference tourney starts. Some are already underway and everything, and they're kicking off. And we got Temple versus UCF. We got Duke versus North Carolina, and we got Michigan State versus Michigan. Only reason I said Temple is because I went there. It's not a huge game. I tried to throw it in there with the UNC Duke like it was something crazy.
Yeah.
The UCF is in Temple's conference, so it's a nice battle there. UCF's 25th ranked in the nation, and Temple's unranked. So this would be a big win for them if they were able to pull it off. They need help getting into the tourney, and I think they could make it to 22-8. So they should be right up there. I haven't followed, honestly, and Selection Sunday is next Sunday, so I'm going to have to do my work on that. But Temple's definitely going to be one of those schools that Philly should get behind if they get in, because everyone rallies behind the Philly schools, and Temple's that fight for the cherry and the white. So watch this weekend, get hype, support Philly, support Temple. And Nish, what do you got for us this weekend?
For me, I got a little bit of basketball and a little bit of soccer. So you got Sixers versus Rockets, Arsenal versus Manchester United, Thunder versus Blazers, Nuggets versus Warriors, Celtics versus Lakers, and Pacers versus Sixers. So those are the pretty marquee games happening in both soccer and in basketball. So if any of our viewers have time, take a look at those games and enjoy your sports weekend pretty much.
Exactly.
All these games.
Yeah. We got tons of games on, man. Big NBA, big soccer. I'm really looking forward to that Sixers Rocks tomorrow night, but I'm super excited for that Pacers Sixers. I didn't even know that was happening. Is that Sunday or Saturday? I've been so
Sunday. It's 12:30 game.
So
yeah.
So they play back to backs Friday and Saturday.
No, they play on Sunday.
Sunday, okay, Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. I'm gonna have a nice breakfast. Get ready for that game. It's at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Yep.
Ooh, I'm gonna have a nice breakfast. Get ready for that game. Ooh, and then make a nice lunch to just chill and watch the Sixers game. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait. I love it. And just tweet about it and just chill. Man, nothing like it. I had a crazy week, and I just can't wait. So we're going to move on to our closing points. There's been a lot of chatter. There's been banter. It's this, it's that, it's everything. Nick Foles, Carson Wentz. Foles announces, not announces, but rumors come out, reports come out. He's all but gone. It's all but done. Jacksonville it is. They'll get Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP. And, poor Eagles are stuck with Carson Wentz. Only quarterback in NFL history to throw for 70 touchdowns, less than 30 interceptions, with a 60% completion percentage. That in his first 3 years. That's the only quarterback to do that. I mean, oh man, poor Eagles. Only the guy that was about to win MVP till he got hurt. Oh, poor Eagles, a 26-year-old that has tons of room to grow and paced for 30 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. Actually got it the second season last year. If you pace it out to 16 games, of course, injuries are the concern. Injuries are the concern, but if you paced his last year out, coming off an ACL injury with an injured back, through 16 games, he throws 30 touchdowns. And injuries are the concern, but Eagles fans should be excited for Carson Wentz. It's not poor Eagles. Nick can't save you this time. It's Carson Wentz stays healthy, and he is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Elliott Shore-Parks today put out a top 5 most important players for the Eagles list, and he had Malcolm Jenkins first. He had, I think, Fletcher Cox second. I know I'm not going to get all these. He had Zach Ertz. Oh, he had Zach Ertz, Lane Johnson, and Jason Kelsey. Look, I understand offensive line is really important, and I know Malcolm Jenkins is a great player. I know Fletcher Cox is a great player. Elliott's reasoning for that was that those guys on that list are all top 5 at their positions at the least, and Carson hasn't proven to be a top 5 quarterback yet. But I'm telling you what, a top 10 quarterback, which I believe that he definitely is a top 10 quarterback. You go through the league, can't tell me you'd rather have other guys over him. Understand the injury concern, but talent-wise, he's a top 10 quarterback when he's on the field. And that is more important to me than having a top 5 safety in the NFL. So to me, importance-wise, I think Carson is probably the most important player. I mean, if his health and play hinges so much for this team, and if he plays at a high level, the team can be great. If he doesn't, you see what happens. They have to get other guys to step up, and dudes are blowing 4th and longs and blowing 17-point leads. So Carson really has to take it upon himself. As far as importance, he's the guy. He's the one that we need this year to step up. And I think everyone should be excited because I think he stays healthy. I think he goes out, reclaims his throne in Philadelphia as the starting quarterback, leads us to the playoffs. I think it's going to be a fun year. And there's a lot of people on everywhere. All of a sudden, it's like all this doubt for Carson Wentz, and I see it all the time. And I think there's a lot of hard-headed Philly fans, but I also think there's people that really are super emotional about Nick Foles, and I get that. I am too. I love the guy. He's great. He's never even started a full season in his career, so taking a risk on him, it makes no sense. You got to take the risk on a guy that you saw play like the MVP. I mean, he was the guy everyone's talking about before Mahomes came along. And he was like the first, young quarterback that people were, raving about. So not ever, but, of recent times. So I think Mahomes has, earned his spot as one of the top quarterbacks, definitely top young quarterback, but Wentz is going to be right behind him. Our hopes and, if everything works out, our hopes will come true with that. Doug Peterson, great coach, and can coach him up. And I think just getting him kind of the proper protection around him and the proper help. And I think they have big plans to do that. And Harry Roseman doesn't sleep until that's gonna be done. So he's gonna rebuild around Wentz, revamp, hungry players, healthy players, young guys, burner receiver, running game, get that defense a little shored up, get that pass rush back cycling, get the whole team working. And you got Carson Wentz at the helm of it all. I love it. That's my Wentz rant. Heading into the weekend. Can't say anything else but fly, Eagles, fly, and watch some sports this weekend. And now listen to Nish's last points, and then we'll officially sign off. I'm jumping the gun a little on signing off, but that's my Wentz rant for you. Take it or leave it. That's it. Nish, what do you got?
So my closing point for this episode it has nothing to do with NBA or NFL. It's more about the UEFA Champions League this past 2 days, and my God, were those games amazing. The one Ajax versus Real Madrid, how Real Madrid were the 3-time defending champions, and how they entered the Tuesday's game up 2-1. And their captain, he said he intentionally got a yellow card, which meant that he would be suspended for the next game. And he thought that the tie was basically done and dusted, that they were going through. That was not the case. Ajax, from the opening whistle, they came out and they dominated the match. They ended up scoring 2 goals in 20 minutes, putting the pressure on Real Madrid. And from that point on, it was Ajax just gave it to them, and it was one of the biggest upsets in European history with that Ajax winning. And, that just makes the game even better and better. It's always great to see, the top teams up there fighting for the trophy. But it's also nice to see these, not these like small clubs, but these clubs that, they're fighting for, recognition, and Ajax was able to do that. And then in yesterday's game, which is PSG versus Manchester United, PSG were heading into the second leg up 2-0, and Manchester United had to at least score 3 goals to move on. So from the opening whistle, just like Ajax, Manchester United, they came out. They ended up scoring the first goal, so they're down by 1 goal. Then they ended up giving 1 goal, conceding 1 goal to PSG, and at that moment, I'm a Manchester United fan. I felt like that tie was over. Then in the 30th minute, a ball gets fumbled, and the goal scorer, he puts it into the back of the net. Now it's 3-2 on aggregate, which means United only needed 1 goal to go through. And then in around like the 89th minute, 90th minute, there's this handball in the penalty box. It got reviewed. At first, it wasn't a penalty. Then it got reviewed. It became a penalty. And then about like 3 minutes later, the goal scorer, Marcus Rashford, he blasted the ball into the back of the net. And then United, at that point, they were going through. And then there was a couple of more, about 5 more minutes of added time because of the review, and then a little bit extracurriculars on the field happening. So they ended up going through. So there's like about 4 more games next week to determine the quarterfinals. So I was really, for me as a soccer fan, I felt really happy watching 2 of the biggest clubs in the world go down. And these, like Manchester United, they're a pretty big club. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world, but they haven't been performing well late. They fired their manager. They got a new one. So it's kind of like, they got the job done and we're moving on. So, yeah, that's my closing points.
There you go. There you go. Breakdown of the soccer.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge watcher of soccer, so I like getting updated on this show. And, it's the first time I'm hearing anything about it, too, because I don't, how many of my friends really pay attention to soccer either. But I have nothing against it, and I love that FIFA video game, so it's not bad. So I like it, and I want to hear more about it, so keep bringing it to the show. I mean, I guess this is it. We're kind of signing off for the week. Another show in the books. And next week, it's going to be a little different. We're going to go on Wednesday because free agency, NFL free agency, March 13th, Wednesday of next week. So it's going to be a big day. News is going to be breaking, and we want to get on Wednesday night to break all that stuff to you guys and just follow it and do give some real good content, do some predicting of how guys are going to do on certain teams, and see what the Eagles do. So that's kind of that. We will see you later. Nish, follow him on, he'll tell you about his social media. I'm Tom Stakes. Follow Branded Sports as well, and follow Nish.
Yeah, follow me at Big Nish 20 on Twitter. You want to get any dialogues, send a message to my direct messages. We can talk there, or let me know if you guys want to be on the show and talk some Eagles, NBA, or NFL with us. So
yeah.
Until next time.
Yep. Absolutely. Salute to you guys. Thank you for watching, tuning in. This is Branded Sports Hits and Hoops, episode 3. Hit us up on Twitter, like Nish said. DM us, get on the show, whatever the case is. We need somebody to chop it up with and get somebody else in here. So let's go Philly sports. Always rooting for them, but overall, let's just go sports in general. Have a good weekend, and tune in next Wednesday for the free agency episode of NFL free agency Hits and Hoops. It's going to be a good one.